Terry A. Davis was born in 1969. He died tragically in 2018. As I said, he was a schizophrenic. He designed an operating system called Temple OS. Now, this was a complex, time-consuming, project for one man to undertake, especially considering the fact he was schizophrenic. Uh, he managed to garner a cult following online, and he even called himself the smartest programmer that ever lived. This guy was severely schizophrenic, and he designed an operating system called Temple OS, which he believed was going to give him direct communication with God. In his teens, he conquered the Commodore 64 and done really complex computer programming on that there before mastering and getting a degree in programming and stuff when he was a bit older. He developed manic episodes as a teen, which was later diagnosed to be schizophrenic. He actually grew up a Catholic and was an atheist as an adult, but when he had that revelation from God to create that wee fucking operating system, he spent 10 years of his life writing that code, all on his Jack Todd. Now you consider today that fucking Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, they might have wrote MS-DOS not there, but they had teams working on that code. This was one man developing his own operating system, and it worked fully well, just like any other PC, only it had a few, like fucking alternative programs running on it. So I spent a decade doing that, and as he got older, he ended up homelessness and in prison a few times because his delusions just get that out of control. They thought people were committing psychological warfare on him. There's an old term on using the N word on the internet called Glow N, and it was actually him invented that fucking term that gets widely used on websites like 4chan and all, because he actually had these paranoid delusions that all black people were in the CIA and they were working for the FBI and stuff. So he had these weird fucking names that he would call people who he was paranoid against. But I want to tell you a bit about him. I only found this guy recently. He's worth a Google, considering the fact that he's I just always be fascinated by guys that are kind of mental but achieve a lot. No, that way. I thought he was quite a fucking interesting character. But he started developing these delusions when he was a young fella. He started listening to Rage Against the Machine. You know that song? Those that burn crosses are the same that work forces. Those that burn crosses are the same that move forces. Well, he started listening to that there quite a lot and developed delusions that the FBI and all were working against him. Very regularly after that there, he started giving his money and all his clothing and possessions away to charity. His parents tried to keep him right, keep him on their same track, but he started living a nomadic lifestyle. In a panic, he travelled hundreds of miles to other towns, believing that his car was communicating with aliens. Finally, the police found him, hijacking his car, taking it to bits, and when they arrested him, he broke his collarbone trying to escape, and then hijacked another car, and then was locked in a cell where he stripped naked and took his glasses off and tried to use the frames to break his way out of the cell. When the hospital nurse was brought to his attention over his collarbone from when he tried to escape, she noticed that there was artifacts on his shoulder. She said to him, "You've got some strange artifacts on your shoulder." And his paranoid delusion and schizophrenia, he interrogated those artifacts as alien artifacts. He somehow believed that he was harbouring alien technology in his shoulder. In Iran, carjacked another car, went crazy, and that was basically his first major breakdown of schizophrenia. From 1960 to 2003, he was admitted to a psychiatric ward every 6 months. He became obsessed with God and the Temple OS programming, in which he would try and communicate with God. Funny thing about it is he had severe word salad. Now word salad is a is a symptomatic fucking a symptomatic symptom of schizophrenia, where it's where you jumble your words and sentences running off each other, not making very much sense. You know, you could say the man has a hat and the cat has a bag and the bag has a cat, and it goes on and on, just, you know, completely jumbled up, no punctuation. But funnily enough, when he would talk about computer programming, his language wouldn't have racist stereotypes or bad language or none of that nonsense in him. He actually completely talked lucid when talking about computer grammar. So he was a bit of a genius, a schizophrenic genius, much like the types of Van Gogh and stuff like that, only working on a modern medium, which was computer code. He said at that time when he went mad, the Bible says if you seek God you will find him. Well, he said I really was seeking him, and I really did find him. Temple OS, the operating system, composed of over 100,000 lines of code, a mammoth task for one man. He developed an oracle system in the operating system that he believed was messages from God. It was said he could have been Steve Jobs, if not Bill Gates, had it not been for his terrible schizophrenia. When he went missing and died by the train, people could not tell if it was a suicide, as he apparently turned around in the last second. Because when he was walking, you know, the guy driving the train thought, you know, as a suicide. But some people suspected it might have been his auditory hallucinations, and he just did not hear the train until the last second when he turned around. But I'd say he definitely would have been suffering. But you can see some of his footage in that on online, where it's all these random videos where he's talking, and it's funnily enough, his legend still lives on amongst trolls because they borrow a lot of his schizophrenic language and use it as lingo and message forms and all. So that's kind of how I came across him. Terry A. Davis, you call him, hey. He stopped medication because he believed it stopped creativity, which is something I kind of feel. You know, so he's a bit of a spiritual ally to me. In the last 2 years of his life, when he was completely homeless and living on his own, fans would feed him, give him shelter, happy to help a creative genius that they looked up to. You know, he was completely fucked. But those last days, police were informed he was a threat after somebody heard he said he would kill if God gave him direct orders. And sadly, he didn't kill. Well, sadly, gratefully, whatever you want to look at it, he didn't die in that way, or he didn't, you know, fuck up in that way. He actually ended up tragically dying in a train accident. But I thought I would tease about him.